what order we do you?
I don't
Agenda
think so.
and then a work meeting.
No,
Um,
so I was gonna start it unplugged, but,
yeah,
um,
answer to your question, what is?
okay, okay, so it's first on our agenda, okay? And welcome to our work meeting for the Virgin Town Planning Commission. In attendance, we have Larry McCray, myself, Bernie Coe, Kent Peterson, and Lee Ballard. We have three items tonight, a, CUP report for unplugged. And a discussion about our grading ordinance, which we had a public hearing on these items last week. And then, as time permits, a continued discussion on the sensitive land ordinance and what kind of adjustments we would like to make, so that Larry and Riker can work on that. And we have Larry here tonight, so I didn't want to have a very robust discussion at the other one, because you know how I feel about doing that without the other.
Right,
Okay,
I appreciate it.
okay, so has everyone had a chance to look at the documents for, in our folder for the city? There are multiple items. We have the application. And I hope everyone had a chance to look at these. And in the application, it's dated 6/8/6/23/25. It's describing, we'll host roughly 20 geodesic domes for nightly rental clamping just off Mesa Road. A larger central dome will serve as a gathering space for small events, corporate retreats, intimate weddings, etc. There will also be a swimming pool and spa, as well as guest parking, desert landscaping, and low impact lighting. All of these structures are on minimal foundations to preserve the natural grade and comply with town and state building standards. We were also given a report by our zoning administrator. Did everyone have a chance to look at that? Okay, and in that, there were 9 recommendations, okay? You need a copy of that? Let's see if I have it. I have it here, so I can give it mine. This is the building administrator report. Let me go and get you. Here's a copy of the efficient use inside. Here's a copy of layout. Here's a copy of the parcel. One more thing I want to do, that list. Did I give you a list of my items? On this. Well, I know on I think the one I printed, I don't know if it has all 9. Oh, yes, Mark gave us a revised one. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. Yeah, but I know which one was left on. So there's this one. These are the suggested. And, but I thought and this is a new process for us. This is our very first CUP that comes from the DRC. And so we have 3 options according to our code. One is to approve with recommended, conditions that are sent to us. 2 is if we identify any, items that need further mitigation, that we could, suggest, conditions to mitigate those, or three, the nine, which really is a hard option to do. So, how I thought we would approach this is by talking about what do we see, based on the input we got at the public hearing, both written and oral. Okay, I spent a lot of time thinking about, addressing those concerns and anything else that maybe didn't come up, okay? So I thought we could go and identify those, and I have some lists, but if you have one that I didn't identify, please bring it up. And then look at the suggested mitigate conditions, and to see if that concern is addressed, or that impact can be mitigated by one of those. Does that make sense? Yeah. And then we'll identify where we're at, and then we'll draft a final conditional set of conditional uses that we will then vote on in our meeting in December. How does that process sound to you?
Good.
Yeah, good. Good, okay. So, one of the things that I thought about was protecting the peace of the neighboring home and minimizing unnecessary traffic. And as we look through those items, the 9 conditions that were given to us, we need to think about which of those address that. Or is that something we need to think about more?
I feel like the condition is backwards. Where in the code it says you may be required to put a 6-foot masonry or landscaping wall between zones. But the trees are on the south side, which is commercial zone, and there's no requirement on the north side, which that's a residential zone.
That's why it's under a conditional use. And the reason for that is there was an easement, agreement, setback agreement between the neighbor and the developer, so that normally it would be a 60-foot set, if I remember correctly. No, not when it's a hotel or motel, it's 60, but they brought that back down to 10. Okay, and they agreed to have the same kind of fence all the way down the property. So that's why, that's already covered.
I know in his letter, he asked why the south side was getting more trees than his side was.
Well, he was concerned that, his concern to me was that, it shouldn't be just, maybe when we should think about all the directions, north, south, east, west, and who would be affected by it. Well, north is taken care of, right?
Right.
The next development that we're impacted is on the south. But he was concerned about, particularly, I think, the east. Monty. Okay. So there's that. But do any of these 9 standards address that neighbor? Monty. Monty is the neighbor to the north of the property. So on that.
Yes.
Okay. And he spoke at the first portion of the public hearing, and he also wrote us 2 letters. And so when I read those all, I checked my notes from the public hearing, and then we discussed things, a little bit, and then just started thinking about things, and what would be impacted, okay? So if you could just, so we do have that one for that, and that's the reason I think why Larry mentioned bullet number 3, but fast growing vegetation, forming a wall of 6 feet minimum.
Question.
To be planted and maintained along the south border. Yes,
With regards to, the wall border issue,
He's putting it on
Monty's side,
the south side,
north side.
on next to
And,
the name, next to Monty's.
He's gonna extend Monty's fence. It's gonna be the same kind of fence, this is my understanding, and that is an agreement between Monty and the developer.
What kind of fence does Monty have?
Monty has the rusted metal fence.
Depends on.
So it's all things.
Yes. And he explained to us at the public hearing that the reason he agreed to the 10 foot is so when people turned in, the lights would hit the fence and not his house.
Got it.
And you were here for that, right? The first public hearing? I think you were.
He was, I remember Bonnie being here.
Yeah.
So the fence, and the fence is basically of shrubs, trees
It's his,
On the south side, yes.
on the north side.
No, it's gonna have, vegetation, low-lying shrubs. That's one of these items.
Okay,
It says low-lying bushes to be planted and maintained along north border.
so I'm confused, I'm sorry, but
That's okay.
all there are shrubs and Monty's fence,
Correct. Low-lying shrubs, yes,
and Monty's okay with that?
that's what he said, the agreement they made together, yeah.
Well, he's concerned about lighting as people turn into here, showing on him, car lights.
Yeah. They would hit the fence,
So fence is it solid?
yes,
Oh, okay.
so I think it's rusted corrugated metal,
Correct.
maybe 6 foot tall.
that's what it looks like to me. I mean, I haven't actually walked up and touched
Yeah,
it,
maybe.
but when I drive by, that's what it looks like. So here's the fence, and there's low shrubbery here.
Yeah.
And then when the car turns in.
Yeah.
See, it would hit this. That's the reason he explained.
Okay.
Okay? All right, anything else on protecting the peace of the neighboring home and minimizing traffic? Lee?
I see mention of events, but now, for one thing, Monty didn't seem to think that that was part of the original plan. And this is not a CUP for, an event facility, which there could be one, but this is a CUP for motel. So I don't think we're at okay for events at this point.
Monty was
Taking
very
as long as it's
concerned about
limited to the capacity of the overnight guests. Then it seems like that would be reasonable, but
So if I did my math correct, if every dome, and I think there's 20, was filled, that would be 54 people. So, Lee, are you saying then that events would have to be limited to 54 attendees?
that's what I'm saying, yeah.
Okay.
That's what the septic permit is for, so.
I agree with that. I think like on vacation rentals, they typically have a maximum occupancy for the house, which is the number of beds that are allowed. And that's the maximum occupancy for that piece of property. So in other words, if it's 12 and there's a bunch of noise and the cops come, and there's 40 people there, then that's a violation of their permit.
Well, that's true of hotel rooms as well, you're limited,
Right?
right? It says maximum capacity, okay?
It's usual fire code, but
Yeah.
So we could add max capacity on site
yes.
as part of one of the conditions.
Okay.
So let's say we get a big group up there that's gonna have an event and rents most of the place out and swimming and music
And yes, so
And-
those are all the kind of things we've been thinking about, and I made a list. So make sure your ideas are covered by.
so, so I'm still concerned about the neighbors, and to the fact of the events issue really kind of concerns me about, music noise
And,
problems that we've had here at the town. Venue.
Yeah, and, yeah.
We have a code that we can administer when things get too loud.
well,
That needs to be a condition. a limit to it, and even DRC said, remote.
Well, here,
monitoring.
yeah, one of the 9 bullets is on-site management required only during events. And I have a question about that, because to me, the definition of a motel is you've got somebody on site.
Right.
Technically, that's how the town has always distinguished between short-term rental and motel, is why there's a front desk and on-site.
And he's submitting this as a hotel, right? Or motel.
Hotel.
Yeah, so he would, that would require on-site management.
Yeah.
That, I mean. So one mitigating factor would be limiting the size of the event to the maximum capacity of the rooms or the domes that are being used for lodging. Another would be to have somebody there. Because if there's an large open space with a pool. I'm assuming there's gonna be a fence around the pool. I couldn't see a fence on the drawing.
I think building code would require it.
Yeah.
I'm guessing that in most cases, even the comment of occasional events, they may be just referring to a small group having an event.
Right.
You know, a family having a reunion and kids playing around the pool and, some things like that, picnicking. That, I don't think would be an issue, in those cases.
No,
I don't think it's gonna be, I don't see it as much more than what you'd see at, any of our, I mean, Wildflower or KOA or,
those are.
I know they're different,
Yeah.
but,
So, go ahead.
I was just gonna say, there's nothing to prevent from one person from going in and buying up all of the domes for the night or the weekend or whatever, and because it's a family reunion or something like that, but I don't think that's what we mean by events. Generally, like, we have event facility as a use, and I think that, that's something.
Well, in
totally
this
different.
town, our most common event are weddings here, and I know the impact
Oh, yeah.
some features of those events have had on the surrounding community.
Yeah.
And if we can mitigate, I think those things need to be considered as well.
I guess if the capacity was 54 and they had a dining facility there and all 54 people were eating at the same time, that would be considered an event, but, if it was above the capacity, I think that's where it starts to become an
Yeah,
actual
but
event.
even like, I think now they have a decibel meter for these events here now. No, you can put it on your phone. Yeah, I have it on my phone.
do we have a decibel in our noise ordinance level?
There will be.
It's being worked on, but.
But that could
since
be,
it's not-
we could put one,
Since it's not complete, we need to put it in.
yeah.
Yeah, it mentions a remote decibel reader, but it
It
doesn't
doesn't say
say,
what triggers it.
yeah, what triggers it, who's monitoring it, what level and what times.
I'm proposing like 60 decibels, and then
Not sure what that is.
after quiet time, it would be 50. I don't know, I read about it on the internet and looked at some studies and stuff and some tables of how loud this or that is. And this would be measured at the boundary. So, I mean, if they had a guy playing the piano in the middle of the thing, it wouldn't even register probably. So if it's like the noise of a vacuum cleaner on the boundary, that's too loud.
They have these charts, I did a little research into them. And then the reason, the decibel limit, to me is a mitigating factor is because we only have a 10-foot boundary from that neighboring property.
Right,
And
I feel like we should find a standard and make it for all commercial properties
Yes.
anyway.
And I-
not just
yeah.
Condition this one, but all commercial properties. should
and
have-
that was down the limits, but right now we may have to include it here.
Got it,
Does that make sense?
yes.
Okay. And protecting views from the highway and forming a buffer from the adjoining property. Now, I think having the fast growing trees on the southern side will also benefit the northern neighbor, Monty, because it will screen. I know he's been concerned about some light trespass from the gas station. So that would help him as well. I don't, but I wanted to think a little more about if I'm there at night, how much light trespass would there be going north? Because we do have one residence there right now. I know there's commercial right next to it, but it's undeveloped. And then the the southwest homes of Desert Garden would be affected. And then I just would like to look east a little more to see what kind of light trespass would be there. Because I know, for various reasons, for different kinds of light sources, the greatest impact hasn't always been right next door. You know, so, and we do have our dark sky lighting, and it'd be great if the developer would be willing to, comply with our dark sky lighting ordinance, because
I think we need to, yeah,
That-
that condition.
Isn't that a requirement now?
Should be a condition, yeah.
Isn't it automatic?
no, because
Well, the permit was originally made prior to adoption, before that's adopted, but it was pending at that point anyway, so, and plus, it sounds like they want to.
it sounds like they're,
Specifically invite people by telling them that they're going to be
Correct.
gazing at the stars.
it seems like they're trying to keep a desert landscape, and I noticed they're not paving everything, a lot of it's gonna be gravel, so it's not all hard surfaces, there's a lot of permeable surfaces.
And in aid of that, I really think that one critical thing is that the domes be opaque. So that it doesn't look like a bunch of light bulbs sitting out in the desert.
I had a question about, so they're called on the drawing, the design, sky gazer domes. Are they open to the sky?
Yes, I would.
How do you gaze at the stars in them, and what do you do at night to avoid the light trespass? And there may be a simple answer to that, you know?
Well, I propose that, yes, it has to be truly opaque skin and covers for anything that allows people to look at the stars while they're in there, but the interior lights would have to be off if they were stargazing from inside. And I think that's a
But
reasonable.
a little circle on the drawing, I can't really tell, you know, what the structure actually looks like.
Right, but I'm just saying, our concern could be addressed.
I know, what is Brody's last name? Fawcett. Fawcett, Mr. Fawcett is online, correct? Should we ask him what they look like?
He's probably, well, I mean, okay, that's not what I was talking about, but yeah, go ahead.
Can you guys
Brody?
hear me? Can you hear me okay?
We can hear you well, Brody.
Hey, thanks
Go
for letting me unmute. Sorry if it's kind of loud. I'm at Home Depot right now. So so I apologize. I didn't know about this call. But yeah, so absolutely there because the other thing with light is you got to remember at night people can see in, and that's the last thing anybody wants is for someone to look inside and they don't have privacy. But yeah, the way it works is probably about three quarters, really less than three quarters is just glass. The rest you can't actually see through. It's covered. And then there's a curtain. So the curtain goes and covers that glass. So obviously just like, you know, any other unit, you close the curtains to your unit at night.
So is there a way to because we're not really, I don't think we're concerned about privacy so much as we are
Light
light
trespass.
trespass, especially any light going
The
upward, but
glass.
also to the sides. And I think that if it has open areas that, could be open while interior lighting is on, then that's gonna be a problem.
So there's an option it's at the very, very top. Not all of them have it, but there's an option and it's retractable. So you basically just push a button and it's not retractable in a sense that the whole like roof comes off or anything like that. I can get the exact dimensions, but it's like it's nothing crazy, maybe like 2 feet by 2 feet or 18 inches by 18 inches. And it's just like a glass window on some of them at the very, very top. And then, like I said, it's retractable. It's like a curtain almost, but it just comes in and covers that, and then it opens up if they want to see the sky. And that's only on some of the units as an option. The other ones are just covered all the way, so it's not
That's
super bright.
And you said what, roughly what fraction of each dome is glass?
Less than a third.
Okay.
Brody, is it like the ones on the summit at the bend?
Yes, similar. I'm trying to picture exactly how they did theirs. I can send you some links to some resorts that did them. In fact, in not Under Canvas, they just did a bunch of them with the same exact company. They've had some for a while and they just added a bunch more over in Moab. I can send the link over to their resort. It's at the tip of my tongue, but it's a newer one. They just kind of like, not newer, but they just added a bunch to it, and so they've been advertising for it a lot. But yeah, they look really nice and really like clean and professional. There's some of the companies that are cheaper. You've probably seen them before, and they look like they're like more plasticky type feel. This is like an actual like steel frame structure, and the parts that aren't window are nice and strong.
The concern is that at night, that the dome does not look all lit up from outside. So it's something totally opaque around the outside if there's gonna be lights on it inside, you know?
Yeah, yes, it is. Yeah, no, the lights don't come through. I mean, curtains, just like, maybe, I don't know if there's a little light that would come through a curtain, but for the most part, it's the curtain. The track is like a circular track, so it's meant to kind of like block out all the light from coming in and from going out.
The remainder of the dome, what material is it made out of? The part that's not glass?
Yeah, I think it's aluminum. Is like it's really called. And there's like a thermal insulation layer in between it.
And the color will not be white?
Brody,
No,
is it
no,
glass or sky dome?
it's the resort.
Uh-huh. Or clear sky or canyon
Clear
lens?
sky, clear sky, clear sky. Yeah, it's clear sky. And actually, so they have that. It's a very similar color. Most of them are very similar to that. To the color that they use. It's like a khaki almost color, like a sandy color. And then some of them are like the window. You can get the different tints on the windows, and there's a couple different like designs of them that the designer did, but they're all pretty subtle as far as that goes. Like khaki and either like the like darker glass are kind of the
That'd
look
be
for a lot of them.
more energy efficient too for the people inside.
This also allays some of my worry because I guess they are opaque. I was thinking these were going to be canvas, and that, if it's not thick enough, a lot of light comes through it.
Yeah.
As we have learned with other
Oh, yeah, and,
things in town. Not to mention the fire danger.
well, yeah, we've just been we're high wildfire out here zone. So
Yeah.
there's some
Yeah, and the
new laws.
canvas, anyone that has them, they look a little bit cheaper, and they have to replace them anyways every couple of years because they tear and they rip, and they, like you said, they're not energy efficient at all. And so that's one, like we want it to feel, like where it has like kind of a luxury feel to it, and it enhances everything going on and blends in and doesn't, stick out like a sore thumb as much as you can have, I guess, a dome not stick out like a sore thumb.
That, in the interest of that, if the darker the color, the better, I guess, like tan or brown.
I know, Monty, that was one of his, well, was all of our concerns. We have, that bright white just stands out.
Yeah, Monty did not want white, which is perfect because I didn't want white anyways. And plus, white in the desert also doesn't really stay white that long anyway. So,
But they're made out of aluminum, right?
yeah.
And then the glasses can also have a tint,
Yep. Yeah.
which might
And
be
the glass is actually glass too. Like some of the other ones, it's like a plastic material that, they use with the canvas, but no, these are actually glass, like octagon panels. Yeah. That they put in and seal.
Thank you for that clarification.
So they must have some way to cover the windows that work, so there's a lot of light spillage on the outside, I assume. I mean, if it's going sideways, it's probably not so bad, but, yeah.
They have a curtain that goes in the
And this automatic one, it'd be cool.
Well, the automatic one is, and some of them with the ones that go up, and that was the concern of mine. Because that is total light spillage going straight up,
That's what I'm talking about.
Yeah.
If there's a way, and maybe they do this,
It has
probably not to, connect the operation of the skylight to the interior lights, so that you can't have them both at the same time.
Yeah, that's a good idea. And
Yeah.
I can find out how many of them, because it was quite a bit more expensive. So I know most of them we didn't do that with them. I want to say it's just a couple, so I can find out that information as well. But the ones that don't have it, it's just the normal aluminum. So no light's gonna get out of that those ceiling parts.
And will the gathering place dome be similar?
Yes. Yeah. There's nothing on the top with that one. And it's just, like I said, a little less than 1/3 is the glass window. And that one is also that tan color too. So it kind of blends in with the red rock.
I was trying to find the diameter of the large.
Yeah. I think it's 12 meters by 12 meters, in a circle. So whatever that is, 30 something feet.
We'll figure it out.
The height is kind of critical.
Oh, you know how high
You
it
need to
is?
know the height.
Are they all the same height?
Well,
No, the height's not the same as the width. I apologize, not my computer. I could pull it up, but I want to say the big one is like around 20 something feet. I don't know, 20. I don't
The
know.
height is 22 feet.
Okay.
No.
Yeah.
And commercial.
I have a question about that, the large dome you're talking about, because I was under the impression that wasn't part of the original application? Does that get added recently?
Sorry, I missed that first part. You asking about the big dome, if that was added later?
Yeah.
No, that one. The only thing that was added later was the swimming pool. There is a pickleball court right there. And Monty was actually happy when we decided to do that, because he's like, yeah, pickleball is way louder than a pool. So that was the only thing that we added, and that was the exact same dimensions as the pickleball court was, and all of that. We already have the engineering and all the permitting stuff with the health department and all that good stuff. But yeah, other than that, everything is the same.
All right, well, thank you for that. We're gonna continue with our discussion now. Oh, you have another question?
Yeah, thank you guys.
This is Ken Peterson. I'm really concerned and been involved in our new lighting ordinance. And part of that ordinance is that we want to be certified as a dark sky community. And I wanted to ask you what your attitude is towards that concept. even though I may understand that you may not be required to abide by the new ordinance that requires that, but you eventually would have to be compliant because there's only a grandfather period that you would have to comply. So I kind of want to know more about what your attitude is.
Yeah, yeah, thank you for asking. And I think first thing, just in general, like we want to work with the town however we can. We want it to be something that, you know, is very easygoing with a lot of stuff, and want it to be something that doesn't take away from the community at all, but it just adds to it, enhances it, and easy to work with. But yeah, absolutely. I want, like, we want it to be dark sky anyways. We don't want it to kind of be this lit up, and I know you guys referenced just different events and things like that, and it's not like this is set up as an event center or anything like that, but it is nice to have the option when people come and stay, if they do want it. You know, I wanted to throw everything out there so that it's not like randomly someone wants to do something, and then because it wasn't part of the whole approval process, that it turns into something that, you know, we can't do later on. But yeah, to answer your question, yes, in support of that, and want it to be as seamless as possible. Plus, a lot of the guests that are coming anyways, same thing. They want to enjoy the beauty of the area, and it's hard to do if the whole place is just lit up.
So, knowing that, would you be willing to add that you would comply to the dark sky ordinance as part of your conditional use permit?
Yeah, of course. I mean, I think I don't know what the new, if you're referencing like something new that hasn't been passed yet, that's going to be passed,
It's been passed.
or
It's our new lighting ordinance.
okay. Has there not been an ordinance already for the dark night sky?
It wasn't dark sky, and that's been passed, but after your permit application.
Original.
So, yeah, original permit application, so you wouldn't be subject to that, but if you're willing to, that would go a long way.
It would also mean you wouldn't have to retrofit for 2 years, which can be expensive.
Yeah, it's available.
Yeah.
So,
No, I don't think, I think that I have like a smaller kind of like resort, like some tiny cabins in Bryan Head, and it's dark sky up there, and so I've gotten really familiar with that, and all the stuff is that we did there had to comply with it, and so
Great.
yeah, I think it's great.
I think that would be wonderful.
Yeah.
We can, I'm sure Shyla could get you a copy of that ordinance if you need it.
One more comment. Brody,
Yeah.
the concept, you probably know it, but basically, any lighting from the facility has to stay below horizontal from the lighting element and stay within the property bounds as far as direct beams are concerned. So if you kind of take that in mind, this is what we have to create in order to help with the dark sky initiative and certification, and that's kind of the basic concept.
And the broad is fully shielded, downlit. The other thing and parking lighting is, I believe it's 6 foot tall. There's a height limit to parking lot lighting as well. Yeah, it just might be good to, whoever is designing your stuff, or if you are, to, whoever that is should read the lighting ordinance.
Okay. Yeah, no, that sounds good. I don't think that will throw anything off, to be honest.
And
so
same thing, would you be willing on any signage to respect, the lighting so it matches the dark sky?
yeah, and I know in Bryan Head that was one of the things that we had to actually change on one of the signs that we originally were going to do. It was like an LED backed one. I do have a question, I guess, on that. As far as I know that the lights have to shine, on the sign, and it can't be seen from the sky and all that. But as far as being able to see the sign, like from the road, or people that are maybe coming to check in or turn off, um, is that the same thing? Like where does that apply? I guess with the sign lights. Like I know it can't be an LED and be bright that way, but like is it something where is it the same for like the gas station across the street, or like basically where what I'm concerned about is at night if somebody is checking in or coming back that they miss it on the highway because they can't see where it's at. Is that an issue?
We've kind of talked a little bit about that being a problem, because, you are the only commercial property in town that isn't on the highway. And we realize that that's gonna create a little bit of a problem for you, and our sign ordinance is written assuming that the business is gonna be on the highway. So
Yeah.
is it a variance?
A variance, if you agree, maybe we could get a variance for you to have something, because we don't allow off-premise signs.
Right.
But we could work with you on that for a variance if you agree to the standards. And once again, there's an amortization.
Yeah. Yeah.
So if you're gonna put all the money in, let's see if we can make it a win-win situation and give you, and think about where you want to place it.
I think that's great. I think that's great. That would be awesome. That was the only thing that I was concerned about. And then I know when I was looking at, I know there was something in there about like the string lights as well. And obviously, I know that doesn't fit with the dark night sky stuff. I don't know how that works just in general. I guess that would just be all across Virgin. My only thought was like with something like that, or let's say somebody did, rent out the place and they got married or something. Is there something, I don't know if it'd be a variance necessarily, but like until a certain time at night that something like that would be okay, or just in general, that's not allowed?
Temporary permit, I don't know if that would be, if it's possible. Temporary permit or a.
We'd have to look into that. I'll make a note of that one.
Good idea.
They have the string lights that are downlit.
And if they were down.
Yeah.
Oh, okay.
They have string lights that are downlit, shielded, they have little covers over those string lights.
Correct. Those would be acceptable. So maybe
Oh, that's cool. Yeah.
We could modify, the requirement. Yeah, and put, like you said, only during events, only during certain hours. Is that what you were saying?
That'll be true, most likely,
Yeah,
that they have to be turned off
okay,
at the time.
all right. So.
Thank you.
Shielded.
And Brody, this permit is for a motel, and that requires on-site staffing. Is that your plan? 24 hours?
No, that's not my plan. I kind of heard you guys talking about that a little bit. Yeah, and I was actually kind of looking up where it said that I know it was referenced that that's how you distinguish the difference, but I couldn't find anything in the code that explains that being the difference between a motel and short-term rental. But to be honest, that a lot of these, someone will be there a lot, like even just with like cleaners. My in-laws live in Laverkin, and some people that are helping out manage and whatnot live right in the area as well. And so there'll be a lot of just like back and forth throughout the day. And it's better for us when someone's there to check somebody in. But as far as having someone on site, it adds so much. I mean, they have to live there essentially, or stay there. And it just things don't really, it's not set up for that. Things don't really pencil that way either. Where, yeah, a lot of it is self check-in and whatnot.
All right, thank you. All right.
Yeah.
Okay, we're gonna go back to our discussion now. I think we've got all our.
Yeah.
Currently got all our questions, okay? So you can use them. Okay. And thank you, Brody. I think the next thing on my list was, and I think it is addressed as sewer connections when available, maintenance of septics, that kind of stuff. Because we are on sewers out here and we're looking at quite a ways to even get the private sewer line up, so.
I think he's received the recommendations of the DRC.
Yeah, so, and then, I think we've talked about preserving the peace of the neighbors.
I'm gonna go back to the sewer one. I know it says that he has to connect to it
Correct.
if it's available, but I mean, there has to be some reasonable terms that it could be available in town. And it may cost him 300 grand to get it to his place.
It would, yeah, he'd
So-
be able to go, run across.
Right, so we can say specifically this one within 300 feet or, and a certain amount of time to do it. Just to say if it's available now, if you want to spend $4 million to get it there.
So reword that one.
Yes, it would be my
Okay.
recommendation, yes, is to make it more specific, and it should be written by the engineer or. You know,
What was I gonna say? You have thoughts on dust and stream gas? Dust and what? Dust, or just impact on neighbors from dust and.
There's stuff that is automatically put on all conditional use
Oh,
permits.
that's
and-
there, okay,
and that address.
all right.
So I feel, really strongly also on, if it's under motel ordinance. You got 20 units here. I can't imagine not having somebody there representing the owner, developer, of the geodomes on site. Anytime there's guests, don't have to be there if there's no guests, if you got a guest. I think that's the town code.
I think that's also a question of safety for both the guests and for addressing complaints by neighbors. One of the reasons we don't have STRs anymore is because it's so.
There was a problem. There was a problem, and numbers weren't updated, time taken to get there. You know,
Our 164040 does its additional uses specific for hotel motel, does not list that they have to have on-site staff. One particular was somebody had to be there during events, which I'm sure he'd be okay with. But like you said, if he's not set up for employee housing or somebody staying there, it'd be pretty tough for us to require it if it doesn't say that.
well, it wouldn't have to have someone live there, but during certain hours, be there. I don't know, I have to think about that.
I was reading about, this question with motels and some of them, unlike hotels, motels sometimes close the front desk at a certain hour of night, and then if there's some kind of emergency, then the person's gonna have to come from further away, but, that might be a compromise, yeah.
Okay,
I've never stayed in a place other than a tent. Or there wasn't somebody that you could go to in an emergency, and get help. Now you got neighbors and things like that, that's not their responsibility. I think it's responsibility of a commercial motel owner.
Okay. And then, did we talk about sound already?
Yeah,
Okay.
A little bit, but
do you need,
there's no standard, it just says remote metering of sound to be put in place and maintained by the owner. So he can set an iPhone on his counter and, I don't know, I think that needs to be clarified and I don't know what the limit should be or what the hour should be, but I think we need to set those and whatever it is.
So
it
a
should be-
specific type of meter, is that what you're saying?
Well, a location, you know, if you could have one in front of the property and have a bunch of noise in the back and never hear it, maybe still hear it at Monty's.
I think the noise ordinance will be written to control the noise on the boundary, so probably one on each, center of each boundary at least, I think.
And then does it alert somebody if it exceeds that or?
That's a good question. That sort of assumes there's gonna be on-site management, but
But would
it
it
doesn't say
alert
remote. It does say remote though, so,
if it alerts somebody on site, then they can go tell them to tone it down, I guess, but if it continues to happen, does it eventually get to a code enforcement guy? Does he get a report every night, every morning that says that?
It'd be probably go to the sheriff.
yeah, that's what it is.
I think that's what it's been for a lot of the here.
It would be like a burglar alarm that if it went over a certain amount, it would call the sheriff. And
We need to look at that wording too.
And it seems like,
see what you think if you, look around on the internet about, 50 decibels after quiet time and 60 during the day. And that's at the boundary.
And that's right at the boundary.
right. Yeah, I'm sure there's standards somewhere that we can't do.
Yeah, they vary.
Yeah. we can-
No, and I've been reading and reading and reading.
Have you?
Just trying to learn. And, okay, so you answered my question about, because I was concerned, I couldn't tell, that they were made out of a non-flammable material, so that is great, especially with our new, fire mitigation law that's going into effect January 1st. Because
crazy.
all these properties will be inspected and if they don't like how things are,
It's so crazy to me that, our insurance company said we're in a high fire hazard area all of a sudden. And that's where I've lived all my life and had several wildfires and it's nothing like this. When we were here, we're like, there's a creosote bush in the could this be a high fire hazard area?
go move fast. So, anyway, we've already talked about lighting and signage lighting, and we're gonna work on that. Lee, do you have any other things you wanna talk about? And then I'll work for
I think it doesn't have to do with the permit, but necessarily, but, you and I talked briefly about the road, the condition of the road, and we're wondering whether,
And this is just a question.
yeah, we're wondering whether an improvement to the road is necessary because of this use being on it, or whether repair of the road is all that needs to be done and the town needs to do it.
So I talked to UDOT about this and they said that any project you have that you want them to review, they would gladly do.
Okay.
If you have a commercial project that you think is gonna impact an intersection, they will look at it for us and possibly make recommendations. I don't know if they would not gonna be a traffic study, but
Does that not happen to DRC automatically?
if it's on the 9, yes, if it's off the 9, no. But I'm one of those guys that there is potentially
So maybe we.
400 vehicles
Yeah.
between me and my access to the 9
Uh-huh.
from all the transient housing around us. And it does impact that intersection, but UDOT didn't know anything about it, so they can't mitigate it. But if the road is failing, so if you have a bunch of people if you have 8 o'clock in the morning, you got half the people that are standing there trying to go to the park. they're all coming out to make a left turn. Well, there's not a left turn lane there. There's not even a stripe to tell you where to stop. The road isn't wide enough for you to get around and to go right. I think it could be a problem there if there isn't some sort of,
At this
at
intersection,
that intersection.
this
yeah.
intersection, I noticed that too.
I'm kind of baffled that UDOT was never involved in those,
They say they're only involved if they're
And I-
informed. If
yeah.
it's not on the line, they're not.
But they would look at it,
They would, yeah, they would.
because I think that would be good for the town to do,
yeah.
you know?
I agree.
Um,
Like the traffic circle that they proposed on,
Colon.
Colon, I think would go into the wall and structures that have been built, you know, at my intersection, because they weren't involved in that part of the planning.
That's a good point. So let me,
I'll just sorry if I can speak up one more time on that. So that's already been done. That was done. All of that is part of the building permit process. So we had to do all of that. And so that was done a long time ago.
and what did they say? Because I haven't seen that.
Didn't get any of that.
Yeah, it's in there. It's in the I don't know who's all in the room, but it's in the building permit packet stuff. All of it was
Okay.
reviewed, submitted, signed off on, but yeah,
Right.
UDOT said that we didn't need to do anything special with this one. It didn't have whatever their terminology was that it needed to do anything different. They weren't worried about it.
Have our road standards we need to look at as well. But you say it was checked by UDOT?
Yeah,
and
it's checked by UDOT. Yeah.
And is in building permit packet?
Yeah. Yep.
Okay, I'll touch base with staff on that. But we had a question about that because we've had issues and there is no left turn lane.
Right.
If you turn left out of Mesa Road onto Highway 9, which is where they're gonna go, if you're gonna go east, there is, we're taking a left here. There is no left turn lane. And you're right at Sheep Ridge Road there too. So. Cause I know with the gas station project, there was some widening of roads that had to take place. So I wanna check on that so we don't run into a problem down the road.
Yeah.
Okay, anything else from you before I move on to Ken?
No,
Okay, Ken, do you have any questions?
No.
Anything else? Larry, do you have any additional?
Just on the, requirement for a hotel motel, it says, I don't know, if it's 60% or 40% of the parking had to be behind the buildings. 100% of the parking is in front of the buildings, and I have no problem with it, but that's totally contrary to what
It
our
is.
code says.
It is,
And I feel like our parking code really needs to be updated, but
I agree.
that's an interesting point.
And I see the why for that.
I understand it too, and I
And
don't know why.
because having cars parked there at night is a lot quieter than being next to the dome for the resident.
Oh, never mind, it says no more than 20% of parking may be behind the building, so.
Okay, so no, yeah.
Yeah.
That's what I was thinking.
Sorry,
That's the other way. Don't worry about it. It's all good.
Sorry,
But I also think that would be better for Monty. To have a parking near the front of the property where his house is. So. All righty, I have no further questions. I asked enough questions, so, we will present our list of conditions at our next regular meeting. Is that December 9th?
Yes, ma'am.
It's December 9th. Okay, Brody? Thank you for answering our questions. I really appreciate it.
yes, thank you.
Yeah. Thank you, everybody.
Uh-huh. Have a good evening. Okay. Thank you, Commissioner. Those are really considerate about lots of questions and, you've got some work to do. December 9th.
you know, all right. Next is the grading ordinance, so right there, you can just sit there. Very good. Has everyone had a chance to look at the grading ordinance? Does Riker have a microphone over there?
Don't, but I can talk really loud.
It's for the recording, you get to be famous, Riker.
Yes.
So did I give you my grading ordinance? I did I do that, you did that, is that the comments around Not that, here it is. This is all for this, so you can use that. This is how I keep my records. I think the things I gave you. Yeah, always. Think that. Yeah, thank you. Okay, so the grading ordinance. I don't have an extra of this one. It's at home. Okay. So. I'm really interested in your comments, Larry.
So. I think it's pretty close. Because they usually involve expense and an engineer, but at the same time, I was really blown away that there was no requirement here and still kind of a lot of us, which I'm sure a lot of people like, probably hear like. But I thought it was almost a little settling. And a lot of scurrying on a lot of hillsides that probably wouldn't be if it was a great permit had been required. The fact that you can't start without getting the approval of some sort of project, like all as a resident. But
We have to look at both.
yeah, it's a necessary evil, I believe,
And every town has a grading ordinance. We were way behind the
Right.
lines.
and I think the world knew it,
Yes.
just like the.
Do you have any suggestions or amendments for?
Well, a lot of what's talked about here is things that I was trying to accomplish on the, sensitive lands, and I think we could probably take some of the sensitive lands and add it here and have one ordinance as opposed to two. The ordinance we have now on sensitive lands obviously was not interpreted the way it was supposed to be, and we need to clean that up, but the map is exactly what I was hoping to get.
And Rikers made that into a GIS map, so people will be able to go on and zoom in, correct?
Not current, right now it's just the image.
Well, I know,
We
but
would be
it-
able to add
it will
that
be.
there.
So you can zoom in and see if a corner of your property is, so I, on a 30% or greater slope, we probably should say, can't do anything. And then have some pretty tough restrictions on 24 to 30 and 17 to 23. But I think all that could be in the grading ordinance instead of a.
My suggestion would be keep the two separate. Your grading ordinance should be broadly applicable to any development that happens in town where sensitive land should address only those sensitive lands. And they would build off of each other, so development in the sensitive lands would still require a grading permit, but would also be subject to the sensitive lands ordinance. As opposed to development outside of the sensitive lands would only be subject to the grading ordinance, if that makes sense.
Yeah, or this is just an overlay, and if you're applying for a grading permit and your property is within that overlay, then there's a whole other set of requirements.
Yeah, then whatever overlay that was would be, it would be subject to those requirements as well as the grading permit.
Yeah, and you look at this map and you think about how steep that is, you think, well, nobody's ever gonna build there, but. I see roads carved in mountains and I see, apartments and condos on hillsides in St. George where you think, I can't believe this.
Well, that's another reason to have, and I know we want to change the title of the sensitive lands, but, to have that is because this doesn't deal with setbacks. Because if you look at some of the tops of those mesas that are bright red,
Yes,
there's a brown area that's
that's true.
buildable, so we need
Right.
the information about setbacks. And then it doesn't deal with our, and the more I've read, or even our current ordinance, and our current general plan, preserving natural watersheds is like a big goal, and it's mentioned everywhere.
Yeah.
And so, I think, Riker, you mentioned you were gonna do one, for the water elements as well?
Yeah, so,
Eventually.
so I guess my question with that is how much would that differ from the FEMA floodway map? That's currently on the recorder's site.
We can talk about that, there,
We should have.
it's like if we have,
That may be something to coordinate with Rod on, is if we're gonna add a map like that, we can have a discussion about
Yeah.
that and what that
what
might
should
look
be
like.
on, yeah. But that's clear, and then I think this would have allayed a lot of residents' fears that they couldn't build anywhere,
Right,
you know?
right.
And so, and they could drill down to the lot they wanted to develop, you know? And see, oh, okay, and even if, I mean, there's mitigation for 24, anything under 30, correct?
Yeah, so. Switching, so within the sensitive lands ordinance, there's a table that defines. It specifically addresses density, the density allowed in those sloped areas and like you mentioned, over 30%, it talks about how development's not permitted. 24 to 30%, it requires a minimum lot area of 80,000 square feet, and that's 1 unit for every 2 acres. If the zone permits that, 17
That's
to 22%, correct, this is all.
Sensitive lands, we kind of got off track there,
Yeah.
pulled up that
Yes.
list. We just like maps.
I do. I like charts too.
What do you think about the language, about the penalty language that I wondered, since we were adding it to all our other new ordinances that have permits and all this kind of stuff?
Yeah, I think that would be appropriate to add, we could have that under that enforcement section of the regulation.
That was one of my things.
I have 8 comments, but
Sure,
we're
go
gonna
ahead.
kind of go through. I have nothing on page 1.
Okay, anybody else have anything on page one? Of the ordinance or the whereases? That would be the whereases.
My first comment is line 46.
46, I love these lines.
Okay. Oh, no, it's not. It's line 60.
Okay, oh, I got it.
Okay, because it says here, no written permit shall be issued except in connection with the permitted use allowed in the zoning district, blah, blah, blah. That could be interpreted to mean that it doesn't apply to conditional uses. So, because that's how the language in our ordinance is, it says, wherever it uses the permitted word, it's saying you don't need a conditional use permit. So I think that if we just remove that,
Yeah, maybe more appropriate to say an allowed use.
yes, that would be okay.
What was the new word?
Also,
Allowed use.
With
instead of-
an allowed use?
also, I wonder if we should expressly connect the, start, the permit to, an approved building permit? What constitutes, permission to go forward with grading? I think there needs to be something specific that does that, whether it's a building permit or a conditional use permit or something like that. Is that possible to stick in there? It's not there.
Well, that's what triggers a building permit, right? You're applying for a building permit and the city would say, or town would say that you're required to have a building permit and the plans for.
So In that same section, at the end, it does have several triggers there. Those being a building permit specifically, home construction, commercial site plan, subdivision. States that it must approve, or must obtain approval as provided under this title. We can reword that, and make it so that it's a little more specific to those triggers.
Okay, yeah, I was just worried because, some uses don't even require a permit and, so, I don't know, it just should, I think it should cover
Just a small.
anything they're likely to want to move dirt around for.
Yeah, I think that would be appropriate to tie it to a building permit or a, commercial site plan or subdivision.
Okay.
I think it would be cool to have a visual in the cars using them.
Right.
Jeep Cherokee, how many Jeep Cherokees are this amount of,
Right.
yeah.
Can't hear you.
When it says 2,000 square feet, right? I'd love a visual of
It's the
what that
cubic
looks
feet,
like.
yeah, so that's just the surface area,
Yeah.
and cubic feet are,
Yeah.
is the,
Where are we?
Line 75.
Okay. I just wondered, some of these are really dumb little things. It says on line 68, grading, excavation, filling, or clearing for agricultural purposes within an agricultural zone that does not alter blah, blah, blah. I think we mean property zoned agricultural, because that's different than what people consider to be agricultural. And it's also different from what the county considers to be agricultural. So I don't know if we need to be specific there. I have an extra acre behind my house. I could call that an agricultural zone. But I'm just wondering this.
What did you envision when you wrote that, Roger?
It was intended to apply to agricultural uses. In some other communities, there are agricultural uses that are allowed outside of an agricultural zone.
Okay,
And so it was intended to encompass those as well. We could
I know about this
define
one.
that. If, I mean, we can do two things. We can either tie it specifically to your ag zone, or we can tie it to the ag use and then add additional wording that specifies that, make sure that it's,
Would it still
that it's
be,
only referring to those.
I
ag
think if it
uses.
was for an allowed agricultural use in the underlying zone, it would be fine. Because, you know, if we just limit it to agricultural, it's not gonna accomplish much, because there's so little, it's at land zoned agricultural. So, oh, you had a question on 58? No,
I was just having a
77.
that was just my little mind, trying to visualize things. So I'm gonna do that.
please keep it.
Well, I can, if it's just surface, it's like, I just think of my house,
Right,
cut off a few
Yes.
rooms. You know?
yes.
So,
My next comment is 85.
85.
With the little track. I just wonder if the plan should include adjacent property owners and the uses there. When you go in for a permit, because. For instance, it would have been nice if Greg Bates knew there was grading about to happen right next to his boundary. And, not that I think we need to require notice, but if there's at least a record happening somewhere, you know, just a plan drawing. A plan drawing somewhere that shows who your neighbors are.
So in general vicinity of the proposed site and adjacent properties, could you add that?
Can't hear you.
I'm sorry,
Which one?
line 90, item number 5, it says the general facility, the general vicinity of the proposed site.
And how would you,
Well, or 7, location of any buildings or structures where the work is to be performed, and location of any building or structures within 30 feet of the proposed grading.
yeah, could we just include owner name? No. I know it always helps us figure out where a piece of property on a plat is by looking at the neighbors around, names around it.
And then I had just, because, on my continuing educational journey, I was learning construction terms or grading terms. And I just wondered, is there any, as you go through this again, Riker, are there any definitions that will need to be added to our definitions as a result of this ordinance? You need to think of that as well. So just put that as a filter as you. Yeah. Some of them are pretty standard, and the only person, but I don't know. And it's something to think about.
Yeah, and we'll definitely want to do that, so I'll make sure that I come through it and make sure that if there's any definitions that need to be added, that we specify that in the ordinance.
Okay.
But this is just revealing my ignorance, and it's a question, not a suggestion to change, but, where on line 95, 96, it talks about slopes steeper than 2 horizontal to 1 vertical. That means, 50%. And some materials don't repose at 50%. For instance, dry sand is 35%. So I just wondered, is that typical? Is that gonna work with sand and some?
Yeah, so requiring that they show a cross section, so that's their slopes resulting from excavation, and requiring that they show a 2-to-1 slope is fairly common. That's common with most of the communities around here.
Okay,
And so it's just saying that if they go to excavate, what's the intended resulting slope going to be? And so if it were going to be less than a 2-to-1 slope, then they would need to make it so that the resulting excavated slope would be a 2-to-1 slope.
okay.
I had to explain all that. Okay, next section,
I don't have until 231.
231.
Yeah.
Anyone
Oh,
have,
that's the typo.
anybody have anything in between? I had one. I have a general comment.
What number?
I'm on line 127, and it says drainage study. And my question is, what are the elements of this? When something like this, where are the standards for these studies going to be described?
So that's that's a good point. That's something that we could define. I probably will work with Rod through that and determine what he'd be looking for in that submission. So that's something we probably want to define, and then add standards for that. For this.
And it might help to have references to technical standards that the town uses. So we have some consistency across applications. Does that make sense?
Okay, I misspoke. I missed a page when I looked for myself.
Go ahead.
My next one is just about fees, 157.
Okay.
I was just gonna suggest, and this isn't a change to make, that the town council should, when they pass this, they should set application fees and per cubic foot fees, per cubic yard fees. Add fees for that time. Next one was, 181.
Wait a minute, I got one.
Good.
I don't know where this will go. I don't know if it goes here. But one of my concerns, and I asked this of the engineer who's going to be doing the paving on Shea Bridge, is so we're in this landscape that is very susceptible to invasive critters, plants coming in. And I dealt with that experience, after a grading episode, and now have a new invasive species to pick out, the area. And are there standards for, making sure that equipment that is used, the tires have been cleaned before they come and disturb our soil?
So
I don't know what the practice is on that, but I think it's something to think about.
In the municipal code, right, not in land use, I think.
Okay.
So typically communities have, certain standards for when construction is happening, things that would include something like a track out pad or some form of mitigating factor there. That's something that I can check with Rob and
Could you?
the
I
staff
really
to see what,
appreciate that, yeah.
what there is and if we need to include something like that in this ordinance or a reference to it, just so that there's a pointer.
Okay, thank you. Okay, what's your next number?
182,
182?
a grading permit shall also become null and void if the entire project is not completed within 12 months from the date of issuance. I just want to know what completed means in that sentence. Does that mean a CO was granted? Does that mean, so the business is in operation? Does, you know what I'm asking?
Yeah, I get what you're saying. So in this instance, when they submit for whether it's an engineered or a standard grading permit, they're submitting what their proposed outcome is going to be as part of their plan. And so it's once they complete their grading, any grading or excavation work as. the
Oh,
plan
so that's
entails.
just complete grading.
Correct, yeah, they would not be required to complete, like, for example, if it was commercial use and they'd come in for a commercial site plan, they would not be required to have their entire site plan completed and the CFO received in those 12 months. They would just be required to complete the.
So maybe
elements of the
you need to add grading project.
The entire grading portion of the project.
Yeah. You just said. And
I also,
on the same idea, substantial work is mentioned. But what is the standard for substantial work? Is it more than 50%? Is it more than 70%? I think that needs to be, I don't know, it just seems rather vague.
Is there only one inspection on a grading permit, just the final? Or is there compaction inspections or requirements that come in between?
not really the building permit.
So under the inspection section, it states that the town may inspect it at any time during the process. And that's something that, the town will want to look at. It would be outside of the ordinance, it'd be part of your fee schedule, but if you're going to have regularly scheduled inspections that you're going to require, then you'll want to assess that,
Okay.
match that on your fee schedule.
But the only required inspection is the final on a grading permit.
As it's stated in here, it just mentions, well, I don't believe we've specified that out, if there's a required initial, middle, or final inspection.
And those are the kinds of places where in the past we've run into problems. So maybe talk to Rod and see what he suggests so that it's flexible but not overly vague. You know, you don't want to be too stringent, but you don't want to be overly vague either.
I didn't quite finish my comment.
I'm sorry.
About, it's just, a couple of lines later, on 183, it says a permit may be extended for an additional time period. I think it should say once. That a permit may be extended once for an additional time period, but this is another thing we've run into problems with. However, since it doesn't give the time period, oh, but it's not to exceed 12 months, so that's okay.
One extension would be nice. They have one extension.
Okay.
Next page.
My next one's 241.
Whoa. Skipped way back there.
Where's she at?
241, enforcement.
But it's something you already
I already
talked on, because I wanna make sure the language is sufficient according to our prosecuting attorney.
Yeah, because when we've always say, oh, you can be penalized, but we don't have the language in the ordinance to allow for that. So we've started when we have major impactful ordinances, to make sure that they are enforceable.
So is there existing language that you have? that you'd like
There,
to
it is
just
added
match?
to the sign ordinance at the end and the lighting ordinance.
But you know, we've tried to wing it before, and the attorney said, no, that's not good enough. Which is weird, I mean, like, we take a model from some other part of the ordinance, and you
so-
got, and it doesn't work.
What we've done, correct me if I'm wrong, Chris, so is we take the ordinance and we send it to the prosecuting attorney. And they create options for us.
He usually gives you a couple of options that you can choose. And then,
And he may say it would be the same three options.
yeah, that's typically what he does, yeah. Probably gonna be the same typical 3 options, because
And we'll pick the same one.
typically,
Yeah.
yeah,
Also mysterious.
but yeah, he usually reviews it and gives you the best option of what it can be, because we don't have a civil penalty.
And you're gonna be working on that.
And that's her issue right now, is
Yeah.
because we don't have civil penalties. This is what we.
We have to do this. Once we have that, then we can.
But one thing good about this, though, is once we do have civil penalties, in play, and we can always have, you know, once the civil penalties hit X amount
Yes.
of civil penalties,
Then it goes.
then these
Yeah.
infractions will come into play. So, you know, if they've received 10 civil penalties over, let's just say, a lighting ordinance or something like that, then they can be charged with a Class B misdemeanor, because that's what's on there. But that's up to our civil penalties of what we decide to do,
Mhm.
instead of having a civil penalty after civil penalty, or them not doing so many warnings and such.
Are we working on that?
I believe
It's,
so.
it's Mark's list.
Yeah,
He mentioned it to me a couple times.
yeah.
I think it's good. Rebecca, I just want to thank you. This is a much needed document. I think it's pretty balanced. I had a discussion. I went and read all the towns around here. They all have grading ordinances, so it definitely is something we need, and we're kind of in the middle with, how its requirements, which is where I like to be. Okay. Last but not least, and this can be a brief, we have a lot more information and understanding of the sensitive land ordinance, and so, I think it is time for Riker and Larry
Right.
to work together. If you wanna do it on a Zoom with me, let me know and I'll set that up. If you wanna just meet with Riker, that's an option too. You're gonna schedule that through Crystal. Do we need to ask town council's approval to do
But
that?
we'll ask Mark.
We'll ask Mark, okay, when he gets back. All right, okay, so we'll do that.
Yeah. 'Cause
Okay.
I think I'd like to do.
I'd like to get a thumbs
face-to-face
up
if-
from Mark,
Yeah,
and I'm happy to do
Well, I
that.
can come here.
yeah,
Yeah.
it's up to Mark, Mark's on that one.
And we probably all should reread this document. Yeah, so you can give us your final thoughts. All right, okay? Is that good with you, Larry?
Yes, like, tonight I wasn't even prepared to discuss it,
That's
knowing
okay.
that we needed a lot of
Yeah.
work before.
Well, and I want to thank Riker for that map
Yes.
and for working on the GIS. That's invaluable. Thank you so much. Okay. And with that, I'll take a motion unless anybody else has any other concerns or comments. Before I say that, so I will get a list of proposed, conditional uses. We'll put it on the SharePoint for January. Okay?
Okay.
And I'll probably notify you by email that it's there. So you can look at it and comment, call, or whatever.
Proposed conditional,
Well, on the CUP.
December, right?
Oh, sorry, December. I thought it was December.
You guys, you do not have a work meeting in December.
I know, but we're going to vote on the
You don't
CUP.
have me in December, so remember.
Yeah, that'll be. Okay, so it'll be there soon. Okay, so not January, December. Thank you, Ms. Ballard. Motion to adjourn. I so move. Second,
Second,
all in favor?
aye.
Aye. Thank you. Have a good evening.
So meeting the 17th.
It was nice to have you.